Welcome to the SF425 instructional video, presented on behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Office of Conservation Investment, Division of Financial Assistance Support and Oversight, Systems and Training Branch. This video provides basic instructions for completing the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, Standard Form 425, also referred to as the SF425 or the Federal Financial Report, FFR. Recipients complete this form to report on the financial status of federal and matching funds under federal grants and cooperative agreement awards. This video provides guidance to recipients on how to complete the form for Fish and Wildlife Service Financial Assistance Awards. You can access the SF425 form in Grant Solutions. If you are waived from using Grant Solutions, you can download the current version with instructions from grants.gov. Once downloaded, you can either complete the form electronically or print the form and complete the fields manually. Next slide. This slide shows the top half of page 1 of the form. Let's go through each box individually. We'll highlight each section with a red box as we go. Box 1 is the name of the federal awarding agency and organizational element. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system enter Department of Interior-US Fish and Wildlife Service. Box 2 is the federal grant or cooperative agreement number assigned by the service. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system enter the Federal Award Identification Number, FAIN, which is found in Box 4A on your Notice of Award. Box 3 is your organization's name and address. This information must match your organization's SAM.gov registration. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system enter your organization's name and complete address. If you have received the award as a private citizen, not as an organization, enter your name and complete address. For U.S.-based recipients, the zip code +4 is required. For foreign-based recipients, select your respective country first before entering data in any other Box 3 field, as the required field settings change for foreign addresses. Box 4A is your organization's 12-character Unique Entity Identifier, UEI, found on your organization's SAM.gov registration. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system, except private citizens, enter your organization's UEI. Make sure that the information matches your organization's current SAM.gov registration. If you have received this award as a private citizen, enter 12 zeros. Box 4B is your organization's 9-digit Employer Identification Number, EIN, which is assigned to your organization by the Internal Revenue Service. This number is also referred to as the recipient's tax ID number. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system, except private citizens located in the United States or any recipient located outside the United States, enter your organization's 9-digit EIN. If you are a private citizen located in the United States, enter 9 zeros. Do not enter your Social Security number. If you are a recipient located outside the United States, enter 9 fours. Box 5 is an optional field. You may enter the unique account or identifier number used to track expenditures for the award in your financial management system, if applicable. Please do not enter your bank account number. If you use the Federal Award Identification Number to track award expenditures, you may enter the same number as in Box 2 or simply leave the field blank. Box 6 is the report type. Quarterly, semi-annual, and annual reports are referred to as interim reports and may only be required for a multi-year award or as a specific condition to an individual award. The final report is the last financial report submitted for the award and is required for every service award. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system, refer to your notice of award or most recent amendment for reporting periods and submission deadlines. If you are unsure what types of reports need to be submitted, refer to your notice of award or most recent amendment, or contact the project officer identified on your notice of award. In Box 7, select whether you follow the cash or accrual method of accounting. The difference between these two methods of accounting involves the timing at which transactions are recorded in your accounting system. The cash method of accounting records revenue when it is received from the customer and records expenditures when they are paid to entities such as vendors and employees. For example, the recipient receives an invoice for vehicle repairs, yet does not plan to pay the invoice until 30 days from now. Using the cash method of accounting, this invoice is an unliquidated obligation until it pays the invoice, at which time the expenditure is recorded in their financial management system. The accrual method of accounting records revenue when it is earned, not received, and records expenditures when they are incurred, not when they are paid. For example, a recipient enters into a legally binding agreement with a university to conduct $100,000 worth of specific research. As of today, no invoices have yet been submitted by the university to the recipient to pay for any expenses incurred under the research agreement. Under the accrual method of accounting, this would be a $100,000 unliquidated obligation to the university. Some recipients use the modified cash method of accounting, which incorporates elements of both forms of accounting. In this case, recipients should select cash method of accounting. Box 8 is the award period of performance start and end dates. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. If you are unsure about the start and end dates, refer to Box 6 on your Notice of Award or most recent amendment. Box 9 is the reporting period end date. This financial report covers your financial status under the award from the award start date through the reporting period end date. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system, refer to your notice of award. If your report is a final financial report, the reporting period end date should be the same as the end date of the award period of performance. If you are unsure what your reporting period end date is, refer to your notice of award or most recent amendment, or contact the project officer identified on your notice of award. Next slide. This slide shows the bottom half of the form, Box 10, which is the largest section of the SF425 and provides the bulk of your award's financial reporting information. It contains 4 sections: 1. Federal cash, 2. Federal expenditures and unobligated balance, 3. Recipient share, and 4. Program income. Some of these sections may not apply to your award. For example, if your award does not include any cost share or matching contributions, then you would not complete the boxes in the recipient share section. Let's now go through each of these sections in more detail. The first section of Box 10 focuses on federal cash and whether you have federal cash on hand that exceeds your allowable cash on hand per 2 CFR 200 cash management requirements. This section is highlighted here in the red box. In Box 10A, Cash Receipts, enter the cumulative amount of cash that you have drawn down or received from the Fish and Wildlife Service as of the reporting period end date. Remember, financial reports are always cumulative. If you draw federal funds directly from the electronic payment system ASAP, then the amount entered here should equal the total amount of federal cash drawn from ASAP as of the reporting period end date. If you do not use ASAP and instead are instructed in your notice of award to request payment via submission of the SF270 or SF271 forms, then the amount entered here should equal the total amount of cash received from the Fish and Wildlife Service as of the reporting period end date. Do not include payment requests in progress that have not yet been transmitted to your account. In Box 10B, Cash Disbursements, enter the amount of the cash reported in Box 10A that has been disbursed or paid out for eligible expenditures. Examples of disbursements include payments for goods and services, indirect costs charged to the award, and any advances or payments to contractors and subrecipients. The amount entered in Box 10B should never exceed the amount listed in Box 10A. Lastly, Box 10C, cash on hand, is the difference between Box 10A and Box 10B. When completing the form and grant solutions, this box is automatically calculated. This box represents the amount of cash on hand that you have received from the award that was not disbursed as of the reporting period end date. This amount can never be less than zero. Any amount of cash on hand should not exceed your immediate cash needs. Both the Cash Management Improvement Act and 2 CFR 200.305 require recipients to minimize the time between the transfer of funds from the U.S. Treasury and subsequent disbursement, regardless of how the payment is made. The next section of Box 10 focuses on the federal expenditures and unobligated balance of federal funds. It is highlighted here in the red box. Box 10D, Total Federal Funds Authorized, is the total amount of Fish and Wildlife Service funds that have been authorized for the award and made available to the recipient as of the reporting period end date. When completing the form and grant solutions, this box is automatically populated. Recipients reporting outside the system enter the total Fish and Wildlife Service funds authorized as of the reporting period end date. Some service awards may be funded incrementally. Therefore, the total amount of federal funds authorized as of the reporting period end date may not be the same as the total award amount. In such cases, enter the total amount of funds available to you to draw down in ASAP or request using the SF270 or SF271 as of the reporting period end date. Box 10E, Federal Share of Expenditures, is the federal share of Fish and Wildlife Service funds that you have expended as of the reporting period end date. Expenditures include payments for direct charges such as payroll, services, supplies, travel, equipment, contracts, subawards, as well as indirect charges. When submitting a final report, the amount entered in Box 10E should equal the total amount of federal funds drawn from ASAP or received from payment requests made using the SF270 or 271. The amounts may be different when submitting interim reports due to cash advances or pending draws for eligible expenditures. The amount entered in 10E should never be more than the amount in 10D. If you've generated federal program income during the reporting period, do not include any expenditures of program income in Box 10E. This information is captured later in the Program Income section in Boxes 10L through O. Box 10F is Federal Share of Unliquidated Obligations. If you use the cash method of accounting, these are obligations or commitments to vendors, contractors, and subrecipients that have not yet been paid. If you use the accrual method of accounting, these are obligations or commitments for which an expenditure has been incurred but has not yet been recorded. If there are no unliquidated obligations or commitments, simply enter 0. On the final SF425, the amount here should always be 0 unless the service has provided you with other instructions. In Box 10G, Total Federal Share, add up the total amounts listed in Boxes 10E and 10F to get the total federal share of expenditures and unliquidated obligations and commitments as of the reporting period end date. When completing the form and grant solutions, this box is automatically calculated once you enter the amounts in Boxes 10E and 10F. Box 10H is Unobligated Balance of Federal Funds. Subtract the amount in Box 10G from the amount in Box 10D to get the total unobligated balance of federal funds. This represents the amount of federal funds remaining to be spent for the award as of the reporting period end date. When completing the form and grant solutions, this box is automatically calculated. Moving on to the next section. Highlighted in the red box are boxes 10I through K, which represent financial information about the recipient's share of expenditures under the federal award. If your award includes any cost share or matching contributions, as identified in your notice of award, you must complete this section. If not, skip this section. In box 10I, total recipient share required, enter the total amount of cost share or matching contributions as stated in your notice of award or most recent amendment. For example, you're awarded a grant totaling $1 million that has a mandatory 25% match requirement. The federal share of this award is $750,000. You are required to provide the remaining $250,000 in matching funds, which is what you would enter in box 10I. In box 10J, recipient share of expenditures, enter the amount of actual expenditures that have been disbursed to meet your cost share or matching requirements under the award. This amount may include 1. Cost share disbursements by any contractors and subrecipients. 2. The value of any third-party in-kind contributions charged to the award. 3. The recipient's share of any program income expended under the award. And 4. Any cost share or matching funds more than the amount required to meet the recipient's share of the award. This is commonly referred to as overmatch. To receive all federal funds under an award requiring cost share, the amount of cost share expenditures in box 10J must be equal to or greater than the amount required in box 10I in the final report. If the amount listed in box 10J is less than box 10I, the corresponding amount of federal funds must be left unliquidated at the close of the award. This will be identified in box 10H. The last box in the recipient share section is box 10K, remaining recipient share to be provided. Box 10K subtracts box 10J from 10I to determine the remaining recipient share to be provided under the award. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically calculated. This represents the amount of any additional recipient share of expenditures that must be disbursed for you to receive any additional federal funds under the award. If the amount entered in box 10J exceeds the amount in box 10I, then enter 0 in box 10K. Box 10K can never be a negative number. In Grant Solutions, if the amount entered in 10J exceeds the amount entered in 10I, there will be a negative number in 10K. This is fine and simply identifies that the recipient overmatched the required non-federal share. The fourth section of box 10, highlighted here in the red box, provides financial information about the federal share of any program income that has been generated under the award. Remember, if your award generates program income, the default use method applicable by recipient type per 2 CFR 200.307E applies unless the service has specified otherwise in your award terms and conditions. If your award has not generated program income, skip this section completely. In box 10L, total federal program income earned, enter the federal share amount of any program income earned under the award. However, if you received approval to earn and use program income to meet a cost sharing or matching requirement for your award, do not include those earnings here. You will capture program income earned as cost share under box 10J, recipient share of expenditures. In boxes 10M, program income expended in accordance with the deduction alternative, or 10N, program income expended in accordance with the addition alternative, enter the total amount of federal program income identified in box 10L that was expended in accordance with either the deduction method or the additive method. Deduction is the default method for all recipients except institutions of higher education and nonprofit research institutions if the service does not specify in its regulations or notice of award how the recipient must treat program income. Additionally, any unanticipated program income earned under the award must be treated deductively. Lastly, box 10O, unexpended program income, is a subtraction of boxes 10M and 10N from box 10L. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically calculated. This box represents the amount of federal program income you have yet to expend under the award as of the reporting period end date. According to the Cash Management Improvement Act and 2 CFR 200.305B5, recipients are required to expend program income earned prior to requesting additional payment of federal funds. Next slide. This slide shows page 2 of the form, where we will walk through boxes 11 through 14. We will highlight each section with a red box as we go. Box 11, Indirect Expense, is where you enter financial information concerning indirect costs that have been allocated and charged to the award. For indirect costs to be charged to the award, you must have an approved negotiated indirect cost rate agreement, NICRA, with your federal cognizant agency and received approval from the service to charge indirect costs as indicated in the notice of award. If you agreed to accept the 10% de minimis indirect rate as a condition of the award, this serves as an approved negotiated indirect cost rate agreement. If you have more than one approved negotiated indirect cost rate agreement that will be in effect during the life of the award, you will report indirect costs in this section on separate lines. An example is if your award's period of performance is for 3 years, you may have up to 3 different NICRA rates, one for each year. If so, each approved rate will be detailed on a separate line. Another example is if your NICRA includes different rates based on location of activities. You may have to use more than one line if the work occurs in multiple locations. If you're completing the form in Grant Solutions, add all applicable indirect cost rates from the award start date through the reporting period end date by clicking the Add Expense button. If you're completing the form outside of the system, using the electronic SF425, be aware that there are only 2 lines to enter indirect costs. If you have more than 2 approved indirect cost rates being charged to the award during the reporting period, simply provide the additional lines of indirect cost information in a separate attachment. You can add an attachment by clicking the button labeled Add Attachment in Box 12. Box 11A, Indirect Cost Rate Type, is where you identify the type of indirect rate that you have been approved to charge to the award. The most common rate types include 1. Provisional rate, 2. Final rate, 3. Predetermined rate, 4. Fixed rate with carry forward, 5. Special rate, and 6. 10% de minimis. If you complete the form in Grant Solutions and use a special rate or a 10% de minimis, these rate types are not found in the drop-down menu. Therefore, you should select Fixed Rate. Refer to your organization's NICRA if you are unsure as to what type of indirect rate you have been approved to apply to the award. Box 11B, Indirect Cost Rate, is where you enter your approved indirect rate. This is a percentage. Your organization's indirect rate is found on your organization's NICRA or is 10% if you have agreed to accept the 10% de minimis indirect cost rate as a condition of the award. In Box 11C, Expense Period, enter the effective time period of the approved indirect cost rate. This is found on your organization's NICRA. Typically, most approved indirect rates are valid for 1 to 3 years. If you're using the 10% de minimis, the effective period is from the start date through the reporting period end date. Box 11D, Base Amount, is where you enter the total amount of the direct cost base charged to the federal award through the reporting period end date, i.e., the total amount of direct cost expenditures to which the indirect rate was applied. This amount reflects the distribution base used to recover indirect costs per your NICRA. Salaries, salaries and fringe, modified total direct costs, or pass-through agreements. If you're using the 10% de minimis rate, the distribution base is always modified total direct costs. Box 11E, Amount Charged, is the total amount of indirect costs that have been charged to your award as of the reporting period end date. When completing the form in Grant Solutions, this box is automatically calculated. Recipients reporting outside the system calculate this by multiplying the indirect rate percentage entered in Box 11B with the total amount of direct cost base entered in Box 11D. Box 11F, Federal Share, is where you enter the federal share of indirect costs that have been applied to the award. If your award is 100% federally funded, then the federal share of indirect costs in Box 11F should equal the total amount of indirect costs charged in Box 11E. If your award includes a required cost share, a best practice is to multiply the total indirect costs entered in Box 11E by the federal share percentage. In Box 11G, Totals, this shows the summation of the direct cost base charged under column 11D, indirect costs charged to the award under column 11E, and the federal share of indirect costs under column 11F. The last section of the SF425 is comprised of the Remarks, Certification, and Agency Use Only sections. In Box 12, Remarks, you can enter additional information as needed to explain aspects of your report or as requested by the service in your Notice of Award. Please consult with the Service Project Officer identified on your Notice of Award if you have any questions as to the type of information that should be entered in Box 12. For example, you may include details on third-party in-kind hours and total value, information concerning audit payback of funds, reasons why excess cash is on hand as reported in Box 10C, and a breakdown of the source and type of recipient cost share reported in Box 10J. If you exceed the character limitations in Grant Solutions, you can use the Choose Files to Upload button to add a separate file with additional comments. Waived recipients submit all remarks as an attachment with your SF425. Box 13, Certification, is the person authorized to certify that the financial report is true, complete, and accurate to the best of your knowledge. In Grant Solutions, to complete the certification, check the box and type your name. You must be authorized on behalf of your organization to submit this form and have the appropriate role in the system, or you will not be able to complete this step. Recipients reporting outside the system, in Box 13A, enter the name and title of the certifying official. Box 13B is designated for this person's signature. In boxes 13C through E, enter the authorized official's telephone number, email address, and the date on which the report was submitted to the service. Finally, Box 14, which is reserved for the service. You should not enter any information here. This box does not appear in Grant Solutions. Next slide. On behalf of the FASO training team, we hope this instructional video was helpful in understanding how to complete the SF425. If you have any questions, please contact the Service Project Officer identified in your Notice of Award. Have a great day.